Okay, so we're almost there. Even though things aren't actually displaying at the moment, we can see that we're getting some values output to our console. Our code is looking mightily more TypeScripty than when we started, but we do have a couple of problems that we need to solve. We're still using setInterval, which we want to move away from, and I've got a link in the show notes to an article on the React docs themselves that explain how to do this. We're not going to look at that, we're just going to implement the suggested fix. We also aren't actually using the outcome of a call to this.determineNextColourCombo at the moment, even though we call it, we never actually use the returned value. And we aren't applying the CSS change either, so these are the things that we've got to solve. I'm going to start off by replacing this setInterval call with something a little bit more Reacty. I'm going to need to set up a private class property which is going to be called interval. This is going to store the outcome of our setInterval call. Don't need to worry about this too much, to be honest. Again, it's just following one-to-one with how it's described on the React docs. So I'm going to declare a public function, which will be our component did mount. And in there, let's take a copy of that. We're going to call setInterval. We're going to store the outcome on our interval. And we might as well use an arrow function here, which means we don't need to bind this. We do need to make sure we're actually calling the update gradient function, however. And I think we should be good there. We also need to sort of tear this down when our component unmounts. So say component will unmount, and we're going to clear the interval, passing in this interval. Okay, that's satisfied TypeScript as to that interval property actually being used. Now you may be wondering why I didn't put the interval onto the state. It's never going to be something that's accessed externally from this component. It's a purely internal concept. It doesn't need to be modified from outside the component in any way. So it's completely self-contained and therefore completely masked from anything on the outside world. So the next thing that we said was that we're not actually using the outcome of our determineNextColourCombo. So let's do so now. We'll say color1, color2 is equal to the outcome of this determineNextColourCombo. And we do now need to do our CSS update. So I'm just going to take a copy of that out. And we'll just paste this in here for the moment. Now we've got two different calls to CSS here. I only need one as far as I'm aware, but I'm not the world's biggest CSS guy, so don't shoot me if I get this wrong. But we're going to say set up a new constant called CSS, which is just going to be our object. And I'm just going to pick this second one here, cut that out, and paste that in. Okay, don't need the closing bracket and also that bracket. And that should be us good. Could do that a little nicer with a template string or whatever, but no real massive need to, in my opinion. So we've got our class name of animated background, and we can also just pass in our style. Again, there's other ways of doing this using React. This way will just work, so why not? I'm going to leave the hello text in there just so we can see it, see where we've got with that. CSS is declared, but its value is never read. Well, it should be. Okay, we're not actually getting the error, that's fine. Now, for whatever reason, during testing this, I've also found that depending on which one of these that you use, sometimes it displays and sometimes it doesn't. Again, as I say, I'm not a massive CSS guy, so why that would be, I don't know, but it's a bit of a strange one. I'm just going to try this without using the Moz version. Let's just comment that bit out, color1, color2, see if we get any display there. Yeah, kind of strange as to why that is. I'm honestly not too sure, but if you do know, then please do shout up. Now, in order to see this work, might as well just tidy this up as well. In order to see this work, we need to drop this down from 1 second to maybe just 10 milliseconds like it was. And let's give this a refresh and see where we get. This still might not be quite what we expect. If we watch this very closely, you'll see there's like a flicker at the end of each loop. So again, it'll coming up in a sec. There's like a very odd flicker. And what I've determined this to be is as a result of where we're calling set state. So because, and I'm not 100% on why this is happening, and again, if you do know, then please do shout up. This is the kind of weird stuff that happens when doing development. But I think it's because this set state call is actually more expensive than doing these calculations. And what I found is if we move this set state call just to the end there, then that flicker goes away. So again, it's going to need to refresh the app. And I think the fact that I have this running in the background is also killing it as well. So it's going to close that off now. And hopefully, as we watch through now, it shouldn't flicker on. There we go. It didn't flicker at the end. When it gets to bright yellow, that's typically where it would have flickered. And yeah, we also need to knock out these console logs and whatnot. But that is, in effect, our working solution. Now, the interesting thing from my point of view, is that all of this can actually be achieved by using CSS. So in my experience, it would be a better thing here to move this to CSS rather than doing it in TypeScript or JavaScript, simply because this is more of a presentational thing. And yeah, if it exists and it's quite easy to do using CSS, which it is, again, just search for like CSS3 animated background or something along those lines. You can find this really straightforward implementation. It's just an interesting visual thing to see to convert to TypeScript. So hopefully you found it interesting, and thank you very much for watching.